Hi, I'm Linda Ward. I'm the Director and Owner of Reach Forward Early Learning Centres, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about repeated instructions. Well, hi everybody. I just want to talk about something that happened this week that was a good learning curve for one of my teachers, and it was a great point of sharing between us. So I was in the room and I was just looking at her and just watching what was happening within the classroom. And it was a time where a storytelling time, and a group of children were sitting on the mat listening to the story, and one little boy happened to be playing up a little bit, and he had decided that he wanted to have all the attention, and he was sort of rolling on the floor, and then he was distracting the child beside him, and then as they were storytelling, he was deciding to sort of, pinch a little here and do a little bit there, and then going to singing time, and as he was singing, he was trying to nudge another person, and so he was generally deciding that he wanted to enjoy the attention of the other children. The other children were doing a really good job of ignoring him, but he was causing a little bit of commotion. And so there was a supporting teacher who was just watching this, and every so often she'd say, "John," and then John would stop for a second and then but carry on. And then she'd be going, "John, John, John," and then in the end, basically, John was totally ignoring her. I counted, and during the space of 12 minutes, she said John 13 times. So she was just repeating his name, interrupting the sort of mat time, wasn't changing John's behaviour. John was just carrying on, enjoying himself, loving just, causing a little bit of fuss, loving getting his name mentioned, but nothing much was happening. So I talked with her afterwards and I said, "Do you realise that in the space of 12 minutes, you said this child's name 13 times and not once did he change his behaviour because you actually said, his name?" So what you were doing was ineffective and was causing that child to not even really care about what you were saying. So we talked a little bit about that. And that led into the discussion about a trap that teachers can get into. And that's the trap of giving a repetitive command or repeating themselves all the time. So they just, they could be giving the instruction, "Would you please sit down? Would you please sit down? Sit down, please. I said sit down. Did you not hear me? Everyone else is sitting down. You sit down, please." And so there's this trap of constantly repeating an instruction or constantly repeating a child's name, but it's having no effect and no change in their behaviour. And so that is what it sort of sounds like. I'll just read a little bit from my notes because this is what I was talking to her about, that it actually opens the teacher up to be appearing weak and open to manipulation, because that child begins to think, "Oh really, how much can I get away with in this situation?" Maybe the teacher's not ever going to follow through. It just seems inconsistent. But the teacher themselves might be thinking, "I'm just being really kind, I'm just being patient. I'm just going to see if this child will eventually obey me, and I'm just really patiently waiting here to see if it makes a difference." And eventually seeing if the child will obey. But actually the opposite is happening. The child's learning delayed obedience, that they can just wait until their teacher is really cross and then they'll obey. So the 14th time they say John, they'll obey because they think, "Oh well, it doesn't really matter." So the teacher's losing power with that child. And it happens with parents as well. You could say, "Stop that, stop that, stop that. No, don't swing on the gate. You'll break the gate." Stop that because Auntie Linda doesn't like it. I told you yesterday to stop that. No, stop that. And you just hear it so often. So that is a trap. It's called repeated instruction or repeated name calling, and it's often seen in teachers who are trying to get a point across but are being ineffective. So that led on to a discussion about being effective in giving instructions and giving a command or gaining a child's attention. So with that, the first point of that in terms of when being effective, or some of the principles for giving an instruction to a child, where the instruction for that child was stop what you're doing and pay attention to the story. An instruction requires an answer or a response in action. So straight away, the first principle is expectation. Expect that the child will listen to you. Expect that the child will obey you. Expect that when you speak, there will be a response. Expect that the child is capable and is not, for want of a better term, naughty. The child's quite capable of obeying and enjoying themselves. So don't label the child, but expect a good standard of behaviour from them. And if you have that expectation, then you will treat them with respect, knowing that they are capable of being able to meet your standards. So they will rise, children will rise to whatever is expected of them. Expect little and you will get little. Expect a lot and you will get a lot. So that's the first principle for giving a good instruction, is having that inner value of expectation. The second one is to be sure that you say exactly what you mean and mean exactly what you say. If you want the child to do something, don't place it as a question. Would you like to sit down? And if you want them to sit down, you say, could you please sit down now? The difference is, do you want to means the child can say yes or no, because they might not want to. But if you say, could you please do this now? Then it's very much more likely that the child would comply. And if you say it not even a question form, just sit down now, please. Pleasantly, but in a very much that this is what you will do tone of voice. So we want instructions to be more directive, telling the child what to do, and less restrictive, which is telling the child not what to do. So we want them to be more directive and less restrictive. So it's not, I don't want you to do this, don't do that, don't do this. Try and eliminate the don't and tell children what you do want them to do. Instead of, stop hitting your friend over there, stop doing this. It's more like, keep your hands to yourself, look at the teacher. So you're telling them what you want them to do rather than what they're doing wrong. And that makes it simple for them. But it is easy for them to respond to that. Also, even with this teacher, there was no eye contact. Ensure that when you're giving an instruction, that you have eye contact, that you give face-to-face instruction. Make it standard practice, that you get the child to look at you in the eyes when you are speaking, because eye contact is a focusing skill. It helps them to focus and to concentrate, and it helps them to process the instruction. And as you process the instruction, It's giving them time to think about what you are asking them to do. But that eye contact allows that time. And half the battle is won once you have eye contact. And expecting a verbal response is another thing. So it's a yes, Auntie Linda, or a nod, or a gesture, some sort of response, but verbal is the best type, because then they commit themselves to doing what you ask them to do. So that's just some of the principles for giving an instruction, so that you don't repeat yourself, because repeating yourself undermines your authority, makes you appear weak and open to manipulation. Repeating yourself constantly is an ineffective way of changing anybody's behaviour. So you want to be able to gain the child's attention, give them a very clear instruction, know that they've processed that instruction, and then allow them the time to obey you with that instruction. And if they don't obey, at least you know they've heard you, and that they've had time to process. You've given the instruction in a simple enough way that they understand, and now it's their choice as to whether they're going to obey or not. So remember also to vary your voice so that it's not totally bland, it catches their attention. And then it leads on to a principle that is quite known, but which I possibly will talk about again at another time, which is called the principle of the power of once. So that's again talking about not repeating yourself over and over again. The power of once means that the child is in control, is able to make the decision, and then able to face the consequences for whatever decision they make. So that's just a little story about what happened this week as I was chatting to one of my teachers and trying to help her become more effective in the way she was working with her children.